Let's talk films, shall we now? What to watch on the big screen over the next couple of days. We're hurtling towards the weekend. I'm on a bit of a movie a weekend kind of mission at the moment, and it's going quite well. So, what to watch this weekend? Our film man Van Connor is here. Hi, buddy.
Good morning, Dar. How's it going?
Yes, all good, sir. Yeah, how are you?
I can't possibly complain. Another week, another round of cinematic classics.
Good man, good. We've got Greed to get into, Call of the Wild in a bit as well. Both of those I'm looking forward to. I am less enthusiastic about Like a Boss.
Rightly so, I would say. Now, I'm presuming, of course, that you've seen the blitzkrieg of marketing that has befallen the London Underground, the sides of buses of late. You know, it's the garish poster. It's Tiffany Haddish. It's Rachel Weisz, Rose Byrne. Although, you know, you can make an argument there, and Salma Hayek. And the idea here is you've got two best friends who run a sort of low-scale independent cosmetics company. They have great debts. They are bought out by the great corporate tycoon, the big name in female-driven entrepreneurship, played by Salma Hayek, who, of course, because of conditions of her own, starts to drive a wedge between the two friends, basically makes herself the bad guy in basically their war against the typical trappings of the female cosmetic industry. I've got a clip for you of this wedge leading them to have to fire one of their longtime co-workers, played here by Billy Porter.
Shame on your house.
Wait, firing you is not my idea. I promise.
Well, we wouldn't even be here had you not pushed me into letting Claire do a grab job on our company.
She saved our company, which was about to go broke.
Oh, yeah, and everything's so fantastic now.
No, nothing's fantastic now.
Hey! Witness my tragic moment.
That was quite funny, actually, to be there. Meh.
Well, the thing is, like, you say that sounded funny. I mean, I'll be really honest, that is intended to be a gag. I didn't really laugh at it. I mean, the film's 80 minutes long. I didn't laugh once.
Really?
Which,
wow.
For a comedy, is kind of the ultimate epic fail. With it, what you have here is a film that wants to be nasty and barbed and acerbic and witty, but lacks the intelligence to do so. It wants to be highbrow and have something satirical to say, but it lacks the good taste to do so. There's a plot point in this movie whereby there's two sort of idiot lunkhead cosmetics guys, played by Ryan Hansen and Jimmy Yang, who are both actors I have very much enjoyed in other things. And their whole gag in this movie is that they're basically douchebag lunkhead bros who try to make cosmetics and things for women, but everything they make is offensive and crass in some way. Now, that in any other movie could actually be taken as being, well, quite intelligent and almost a meta-textual gag, especially here, considering that, you know, the film is literally written and directed by men. But because the film is so idiotic, so unfunny, and so poorly thought out, it feels like an accident. Like I say, you don't laugh once in 80 minutes. The fact that it is 80 minutes says an awful lot as well. Tiffany Haddish, not particularly any good. Rose Byrne, who's playing sort of the straight man of the two, doesn't really get an awful lot to do because the whole thing is so unfunny that it just feels like there's nothing to be playing the straight man against. Salma Hayek's not got an awful lot to do. The script's drivel, it's pouring up, it's poor to look at, it's unimaginative. It's a waste of time.
Wow. Wow. And it also feels like a bit of a lost opportunity as well, because the subject matter isn't horrendous, actually. I mean, it's perhaps a little bit outlandish, the sort of takeover business idea, but I'm keen to see a take on women in the cosmetics business trying to hold their own. I mean, that's quite an interesting kind of premise to a degree.
It is. The concept there is rife. There's a lot of, rife with potential. There's a lot you could potentially do with that. And as well, it's about women in business. You don't think, okay, there's a good chance to sort of, in a comedy go and shatter the glass ceiling here. What you wind up with instead is less about shattering the glass ceiling and more being crushed to death slowly against it as you attempt to ascend. It's a film. It feels like an even worse attempt to make a female-driven comedy than The Hustle was last year. And The Hustle was abysmal. This somehow is worse.
That was bad. That really was bad. That tells you everything you need to know about that. Okay, avoid this week, I guess, like a boss.
Most definitely.
Okay, I'm very excited about Greed, though. Greed, please tell me that's good.
Greed, as Michael Douglas once said, for want of a better term, is good. It's very good, in fact. So Greed is the latest collaboration between Michael Winterbottom and Steve Coogan, a partnership which once upon a time, and I gather you of all people would appreciate this, gave us 24-hour Party People, which
Absolutely.
is a classic. What you've got here,
Which actually, by the way, Van, there's a very famous quote attributed to the great Tony Wilson, which was something like, "This is Manchester, we do things differently here," right? And that is everywhere you go. There is, "This is Manchester, we do things differently here." It's across buildings. People have got it tattooed up their arms. He never said that. That's only from that movie.
One thing he also says in that movie, though, is given trust in truth and the legend, print the legend. So you can argue they're making his point for him.
Yes, sir. Yes, agreed.
So agreed. In this new collaboration, they've gone back to the sort of the more comedic terrain of something like a Cock and Bull Story or 24-Hour Party People. This is not one of Winterbottom's more artistic efforts, so like 9 songs or something like that. Here he's playing a character. Steve Coogan is playing a character loosely based on Sir Philip Green, a retail tycoon with borderline criminal leanings and almost casual exploitation of third world labour and sweatshops. And as he's being raked over the coals in the press, as he's being tried in public inquiries, it's coming up to his latest birthday. He's got another high profile relationship that he's dealing with in the press, and this all comes to a head as he's throwing a grand party in a remote European island location, which he has themed around the movie Gladiator, and he's hoping to sort of parlay into a grand PR stunt. But of course, tragedy is looming off the horizon. There's a sort of cloud hanging over it, and we all sort of know that something is going wrong. He himself seems to know there's something coming on, and it's a question of whether or not it's going to be karma or outright murder. I've got a clip for you of him proving just what a scumbag he can be.
You can't read the name of the shop. It's white on white. In other words, on that is page 1 of the manual, isn't it? In fact, it's front cover of the book. Name recognition.
Yeah.
See, if you don't sort this out, Neil, the writing is on the wall for you. Except it won't be white on white, it'll be red on brown. Do you know what those colours are for, Neil?
Is it blood and who?
Yeah, correct. Well done. There's hope for you yet, Neil. This is positive reinforcement. This is me motivating you.
Oh, brilliant. That sounds brilliant. So I've got so much love for Steve Coogan. I adore him. He's absolutely one of my favourite actors. He's one of my favourite people. There's just so much about him that I love in so many different ways, for so many different reasons. There is, however, this slight issue with him that when he is playing up to a character, he can't help but sort of stray into some Partridge territory. It's probably because the sort of the Venn diagram of Partridge to Coogan is quite right, yeah. Some overlap. But when because I watched Philomena Back, which was a superb film that he starred in, and his production company created. Judi Dench is in it as well, and he's playing a very straight character in that, and it felt good. I didn't feel at any point like it was too Partridge, but when he starts to play up a bit, it kind of strays into that territory. How does he fare in this?
In this, but because of the inherent nastiness of it, the thing I came closest to with it is, and again, it's another Michael Winterbottom collaboration, is something like The Trip, where he's sending up his own image. Here, because it's got that sort of, because there's like you said, the Venn diagram of Steve Coogan. The Venn diagram here takes him, over the sort of line into almost Playboy celebrity sort of a territory, but obviously it's as the tagline says, the devil is in the retail. He's a retail tycoon. He lives his life in the press. So it's really no different to him sending up his own image as a sort of Hollywood star. It's actually just a lot like when he played Hades in Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. It's Steve Coogan's version of the devil at times. It's very funny. It's very witty. But at the same time, there is a lot of darkness and nastiness to it. And he pulls that off really well because he can play aloof He can play evil, but I don't quite realise I'm evil. It's worth noting the character isn't inherently nasty. He is nasty. He just doesn't realise he's being nasty. And you know that way that Steve Coogan can, he plays it to absolute perfection.
Nice. Okay, I like that. I like the new series of The Trip, by the way, on Sky at the moment. I don't know if you've seen that or not. I think they're in Greece.
I think I'm about 4 seasons behind on it.
Oh, are you? Right, okay. Fair. It's worth watching. Really worth watching. Get catched up, because they do there's a lot of film stuff in there, Van, actually. You'll appreciate that.
I do remember the great Michael Caine sequence in which they both sit and impersonate Michael Caine.
There's a lot of that.
Absolute class.
They basically do that every episode. That's basically what The Trip is. It's just them impersonating Michael Caine. Okay, so Greed is good. We like Greed.
Greed, for want of a better term, is good.
Brilliant.
Very good, in fact.
Okay, this is another one that I think I'm going to enjoy, and I quite like the idea of. Call of the Wild?
Call of the Wild, so it's a remake of the film that should have been made so many times at this point. Also, funny story, as far as I remember, Call of the Wild was, I think, the first movie distributed by 20th Century Fox in the 1920s, in 1921. This is now going to be the first film distributed by the newly rebranded 20th Century Studios, which is what Fox has become after the Disney merger. So there's a little bit of weird historical irony to that. And the very first time that you see 20th Century Studios put before a film, there is just this weird feeling that something is not quite right. However, I can tell you the film is very good, so don't let that feeling kind of guide you. And if you like a dog movie, this one's a great one, with one bit of a caveat. So you've got a sort of boy and his dog story. Here, of course, said boy is Harrison Ford, so less a boy and more a very, very old man. It's the story of Buck, who is a spoilt dog who is abducted by, exploitative local man. This is sort of the 19th century in the Yukon during the gold rush. He finds himself living half his life as a sort of a mail dog, as a sled dog for the mail at a time just before the telegraph becomes a thing. And then he sort of finds his way into the home of, the older, grizzled Harrison Ford before the pair of them set out on an adventure to basically redeem Harrison Ford and basically restore his faith in humanity following personal tragedy. I've got a clip for you that gives you sort of the tone of this.
The Yukon is a dangerous place. You never know what's coming. I came up here because I didn't want to be around anyone. And then I met Buck. He was a dog like no other. He'd been spoiled. Come on, Buck. And he'd suffered. But he could not be broken.
Okay, drama. The thing about, when I see Harrison Ford's name attached to anything, Van, or somebody of Harrison Ford's ilk, I often think, well, they've got status, kudos, they don't need the money, presumably, either. They're doing this because they like it, because it's a good project. That can't always be said of Harrison Ford, can it, really?
No, it cannot. It's funny you say that. So, sight unseen. Okay, right. Sight unseen, I did think this has got to be Harrison Ford's dream, because most of this movie is going to involve Harrison Ford in the middle of nowhere with a dog. I'm pretty sure that's how Harrison Ford would like to spend his days. However, if you've seen the marketing for this, there's one very distinct thing you'll very quickly notice. They've not used a real dog. What they've used instead is this bizarre computer-animated homunculus of a dog that it transpires has been captured using an almost Andy Serkis-like technique of, let's just strap a mocap suit to an actual human being and have him roll around. There's footage of Harrison Ford literally rubbing the belly of this adult man in spandex. And I started thinking, okay, this has gone from being Harrison Ford's dream project, being alone in the woods with a dog, to basically what I'm sure is a waking fever dream for Harrison Ford. Now, the dog never looks convincing. It always looks kind of uncanny valley. However, the film is really good. As far as dog movies go, this might be my favourite one, also the most emotional one, since 8 Below.
Wow.
That's a high watermark, because 8 Below will break even the most emotionally sturdy of men. This, I'll be really honest, I think either I saw this in the dustiest cinema known to man, and I just kept having something in my eye like a good half dozen times, or it actually does work on the emotional resonance level. So a great performance in there from Omar Sy as well, who I really enjoy seeing in movies. Harrison Ford, very good fun, liked him as well. There's a decent cast in there that includes people like Dan Stevens, a small role for Karen Gillan. I thought it was a very lovely film. I was braced for the worst somehow, because, Harrison Ford and a dog, I thought something's got to go wrong with this. But it worked. It worked for me. It reduced me to emotional rubble a good half dozen times. Like I say, either that or just a really dusty cinema, more inclined to believe that I'm a big sissy. But this will win kids over, or win, even the most cynical of adults over, I think. But be prepared, even though he's a good boy. He's the best boy, is Buck, but he's never a convincing boy.
Okay.
That's the issue.
Okay. I'm quite intrigued, really, just to see that, just to see how it physically plays out, really, more than anything, to be honest.
I can't figure out, other than for animal safety and animal cruelty reasons, for about 5% of the time, I cannot figure out why, for the other 95%, you just wouldn't use a real dog.
Yeah. I mean, they're hard to get them to do what you want, aren't they? I suppose that's the only real reason I can think of.
There's a great convoluted, almost Rube Goldberg-like sequence where the dog sort of accidentally destroys a house as he goes through it. And you think, yeah, but Beethoven did that. That was 1992 and it was a real dog.
Right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, fair point. God, that was a good dog, that Beethoven dog, wasn't it? Blimey. That was impressive.
He's not as good a boy as Buck, though, I promise you.
Okay. Okay, we'll give it a watch. Call the Wild. Lovely stuff, Van. Thank you very much, mate. Nice to catch up.
As always, sir. Till the next time.
Van Connor, our film man on Talk Radio this morning. It's 10 to 4.